that?
It's a new electric blanket, and it's going to help us save on heating costs as well.
Welcome to Being in the Way, the Alan Watts podcast, and I'm your host, Mark Watts. And today we're going to be exploring the archives a bit more, and in particular going toward a seminar called Zen Reconsidered. And I was listening to this the other day, and it was very interesting because he opens up by talking about his own qualifications to teach about Zen. And he says he hasn't been trained as a Roshi, and he hasn't sat for great periods in meditation. And he actually comes into the house from a side window. And he compares this to Hinduism, where some teachings come in through the front door, which is reserved for honored guests. Some teachings come in from the back door, which is usually where the garbage is taken out. But those teachings get into the house that way, and they stay there because they are important. But he likes to come in through a side window, he says, like a thief, because he really wants to see what it's made out of. He wants to see what's underneath the front stairs that everybody enters on. So this is a uniquely psychological approach. And this struck me as particularly interesting because I've been hearing a lot of AI Alan Watts lately. And it actually seems to me a lot like a brown-nosing graduate student who has a lot of information but doesn't really understand much of it. And of course, this is rooted in the fact that AI, of course, can't grasp meaning. But there's something behind that in that it can't understand the psychology or the human needs and responses to philosophy in a meaningful way. So when I heard this, I was kind of delighted because it gives a good explanation as to why a straightforward approach or an empirical approach, which is what AI uses, is not going to be that effective. And I think you'll enjoy it. It has a lot of color and is a great context for diving back into his thoughts on Zen. So we're going to be listening to Alan Watts in another talk from the Being in the Way podcast, Zen Reconsidered.
The whole thing about Zen is really extraordinarily simple when one doesn't try to be cute about it and beat around the bush. Zen is simply the sensation, totally clear understanding that, to put it in Zen terms, 10,000 formations, one suchness. Or you might say, the 10,000 things, that is everything, is of one suchness. That is to say that there is simply behind and appearing as the multiplicity of events and creatures in this universe, simply one energy, and you're it, and everything is it. And the work of Zen is to understand that, as to say, so as to feel it in your bones. But Zen has nothing to say about what that energy is. And this, of course, gives the impression in the minds of Westerners that it is like, we would say, blind energy. Because the only alternative to that we can suppose, thinking in terms of our traditions, is that it's something like God. That is to say, a kind of cosmic ego, an intelligent being, almost personal. But that, in Buddhistic view, would be as far off the point as thinking of it as blind energy. The reason why this word suchness is used is to leave the whole thing open and absolutely free from definition. Because the whole point about this energy is that it should be unformulated. That is not to say formless in the sense of, some kind of goo, thank you, which is just a featureless mess. It means that at the basis of everything, there is something which in the nature of things never could be made an object discerned, figured out, explained. For in just the same way, just exactly the same way, the eyes, when seeing, apparently have no color and no form of their own. If the eyes had a form of their own, they would distort all the forms that we see, and perhaps in some sense they do. If the eyes had a color of their own, that is to say, if the lens had a color, it would screen out that color in nature. And so you would never see it, you would never be aware of it. But we are not aware of the color of the eye, of the lens, because it is basic to all sight. And so in exactly the same way, one would never be aware of the structure, the nature of the basic energy of the world, because you are it. And everything is it. And you might say, well, that doesn't make any difference then. And it's true, it doesn't. But it does make a difference in the life and feeling of a person who realizes that that is so. Although it doesn't make any particular difference to anything that happens, except this one important matter. If there were no eye, there would be no sight. It's true, we have this sight and that, and the structure of the eye doesn't make any difference to this sight and that. But upon it depends the possibility of seeing. And so upon this energy depends the whole possibility of there being a universe. That's rather important, but it's so important that we overlook it. It doesn't